This is Philip Curran, film, television and theatre composer, and you're listening to GMI.
Welcome to GMI. My name is Ged Brockie and I run the Guitar and Music Institute. Podcast episode number 42. Now, for those that have listened to this podcast over the years, you'll recognise something slightly different. That's right. The opening music is not our usual mad frenzied rock piece by Fraser McMillan, the wonderfully talented guitar player who very kindly donated that to the show. The music you're listening to is by a film and TV composer named Phil Curran. Phil is an old student of mine, quite a few years back now, and since leaving university, he's actually been in a lot of demand and built a great career writing music of all sorts for theatre, film and TV. So this show is going to be a little longer than normal because I'm actually got the rights from Phil to put some of his music in the show. The vast majority of it will be Asian in its sound. But there's also an electronics piece. There'll also be a video on the GMI website. That's at www.guitarmusicinstitute.com, where you can listen to more of Phil's music, watch a video of him and see him in action and his workstation and all the rest of it. So even if you're listening to this on iTunes or any of the other download sites, come over to guitarmusicinstitute.com and go to podcasts, and you'll see a little more of Phil and you'll see some video. I'm really proud to present Phil Curran, who's always a standout student, and now we're going to hear how he's gone about making his career in the world, the very competitive world, let's be honest, of scoring for film and TV and theatre. Here's that interview coming up now. Phil Curran, how good it is to see you again.
Hello, Jed. Good to see you again.
It's funny, we are in the same country, folks, but the way that it's going, it sounds like he's a million miles away. You're not on the moon, are you, Phil?
No, I'm up in Perth now.
Perth, Australia, yeah.
May as well be.
Yes. You used to be able to, they just started flights up to Perth, Australia from London. They're not running anymore.
Oh, right, yeah, of course, yeah.
Now, the reason you're on is you were touched by the magic of film scoring, and you now have realised that dream and become a film composer. Can I just say, how cool is that? And how did you do it?
Oh, yeah, it's great. Well, I suppose it goes back, and but yeah, like now, so like as where I sit now, I'm sat in the studio in Perth, making a living out of writing music for films, television, and theatre, which is amazing, really cool. But it goes back. I'm not sure if you want the whole story. I don't. If I'm waffling, just guide me. But
I might pop in up very occasionally. But this is about you, Phil. So yeah. Tell your journey.
Tell the journey. So I suppose just briefly, like I suppose like a lot of musicians, you start as a kid. I started playing guitar when I was 12. After watching Back to the Future, Michael J. Fox play Johnny B. Good. And I thought, that is the coolest thing I've ever heard or seen. Guitar solos. So that's...
Was that not... Did he not play it before it had actually been played in real life?
Oh,
or the guitar he was playing hadn't been... It's one of those. He was actually playing it before it had been actually played in real life, or before the guitar had come out.
Really?
Yeah, apparently. You can check that up. Check that up at home, folks.
so that started my journey into becoming a guitar player. So through the teenage years, I got really obsessed into guitar, and then rock and metal and solos, and then I got heavier and heavier thrash metal and so on. But kind of parallel to that, I started to get really into film scores, and I think it was as a kid, listening to the film scores I grew up on 80s fantasy films, like cheesy 80s fantasy films like Krull, Willow, The Goonies, all this kind of stuff. So I had these two parallel things going on: guitar on one side, film scores on the other, and the both of them I grew an obsession as I grew older. And then And then I came to Napier University, 2002. And at that point, I was totally obsessed with film scores because, like, Lord of the Rings came out. I got obsessed with the Lord of the Rings scores, which you're not a fan of. Yeah, I always know. But I got just really up into, like, big, dramatic, orchestral, ethereal film music.
Well, Phil, you're originally from Liverpool. Why did you come up to Edinburgh for that?
So I was applying to universities and I got an offer from LIPA, the Liverpool Institution of Performing Arts.
Wow.
So I got an offer from there, which was I had to get 2 C's at A level, and I got a C and a D because I'm thick and didn't get it.
It's D for dunce.
It may as well be. And like 2 C's is like quite like an E, like that's classed as like, right, you just do all right.
So basically Napier was totally desperate.
Well, I came up, so I applied an audition for LIPA, got the offer, and then came up to Edinburgh and done an audition for Napier with Graham Weir. But I loved it though, because it was up at Craig House campus, beautiful campus, wasn't it? And yeah, done my audition there, and then Graham Weir actually, like on my way out, he just said, yeah, I've done like a guitar solo, sweet picking, and then he just said, yeah, we'd love to have you. It's like an unconditional offer. So that Napier became my second choice, but I'm so glad it worked out because I wouldn't have gone to being able to study music for screen, which I'm going to come to. So I started at Napier. Didn't know what I wanted to do really. All I knew was that I was a competent guitar player, but I didn't know what I wanted to do for a living, like a lot of kids. I just thought, well, let's just go and study and just see what options sort of spring up. Then it all changed. I always talk about this as like the moment it really changed was the third year of uni at Napier, and we got the option to study music for screen by Ged Brockie. And honestly, I walked out of that first lesson going, that's it. That's what I want to do.
I just wish all the students I taught when I was teaching that course were like you, Phil, because you were a total dream student.
I was just, it was nuts because, like, again, I was so obsessed with film scores, but I didn't think I had the skills to do it because I was a guitar player, an isolated guitar player. I wanted to play guitar solos and not socialize with anyone. And, I was getting good, in the wide field of rock and thrash metal. I was quite a decent player.
Does that comment you've just made hint at some dark neuroses in your mind, not wanting to talk to people? I always thought you were a really chatty person.
Well, yeah, I know. It's just, I think I remember coming up to Napier and seeing all the other guitar players and going, oh my God, these are way better than me. Because it's, you sort of like, when you're at home, it's like, oh yeah, Phil's a great guitar player. Then you come up to the big city and then it's like, no, you're not actually as good as him. But yeah, I just remember that first lesson in music for screen where I thought I was like the only person who was into kind of film music. And then when you started talking and you taught the lesson and you started mentioning composers like Alan Silvestri, John Williams, James Horner, Hans Zimmer, and I was just like, oh my God, someone else is into this stuff as well. I was like, I was mesmerized. I was like, wow. And then, you were analyzing like, scenes and doing music theory that related to film scores. And I was just like eating it all up because, when you sort of analyze music that you love, it just becomes so much easier, doesn't it? Rather than analyze music that you're not that into really. But that was it. That was the first lesson. After that, I not too long after I quit the band and.
Wow. I didn't know that. So you actually quit your band and that was it.
Yeah.
Do you think if someone, I know we're going to get into the mince and tatties of it all later on, but if someone wants to do that, do you feel they have to have that exceptional drive that you had to do it?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, I mean, in fact, I remember you saying at the end of the first lesson, I think it was the first lesson where you're saying, if you want this bad enough, you can do it. And it's true, but you do need to have it. It can't just be a passion. It needs to be a complete obsession. Like I think, which maybe an unhealthy obsession, but because it is difficult and you're going to get loads of knockbacks and you're going to get more knockback. Well, at least I've definitely had more knockbacks than successes. And yeah, I suppose the thing that keeps you driven is just the obsession for wanting to do it.
Don't you think that getting knocked back, which is a common theme actually, no matter what people are talking about in terms of a career in music?
Yeah.
I had another ex-Napier student on in the last interview, and he was talking as a guitar player, about how hard it is to get in.
Yeah.
It's almost a rites of passage, isn't it? I mean, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
In a way, might sound quite sadistic, but like, I kind of hope that if a new student got into film scoring and TV scoring, I do hope that they go through a little bit of the pain that I've been through as well. Because if they were just to like waltz into it and get a big job, I'd be like, I'd be really good. I'd be like, oh, what have I done wrong? Yeah, it definitely builds up your mentality and resilience and perseverance and all this kind of stuff. And it's definitely a rite of passage. And I think all the knockbacks make the victories that more sweeter.
So from doing the peer course, which kind of put fuel in the fire,
yeah,
what was the next big sort of landmark in your journey?
Yeah, well, so I'd done the rest of the Napier degree, another 2 years, and sort of focused everything I could on the film score stuff. And then I graduated, and I graduated with a few, like maybe 5 or 6 student films under my belt. And then I kept doing short films. And then I started getting calling up production companies based around Edinburgh, where I was living at the time. And I got my first bit of commercial work through a production company in Edinburgh called Plum Films. They're based down at Constitution Street in Leith. And that was just a case of like, I discovered the world of networking, because there's so many different aspects of being a composer. It's not just about writing, it's networking and emailing, cold calling, and you're your own agent. You've got to source out your own work.
And it's a little like an iceberg, isn't it? 2/3 of the works, everybody just sees the flash stuff at the top.
Yeah, that's it. It's like writing music is sometimes only a small part of it, and a lot of the other time you're trying to find jobs. Like that's the cold hard truth. You're trying to find employment. And I'd had I'd emailed hundreds of production companies, and maybe 10 of them get back. 9 of them will say we'll keep you on file, and then maybe 1 might give you an opportunity. But my first little, I wouldn't say it was a break, but my first sort of broadcast piece of work was from this production company, and I learned the world of pitching music. So I got in touch with this production company. They happened to be doing a 30-second TV advert for a shopping mall in Newcastle. So it was going to play on the northeast of England, whatever their regional station is. And so they sent me this advert and said, would you like to write as a demo? So I was like, yeah, don't care. Yeah, I'd been graduated for 2 years. I was like, yeah, cool. And it was 250 quid. And I was like, that was a lot of money. I was just, whoa. How
exciting must that have been?
Oh, honestly, I hadn't even gotten the job, and I was already looking for properties to buy in Hollywood.
You see, the industry, you got that gig.
Yeah.
For people listening who might be interested in this, did that lead on to more work with the same company, or does it just fizzle out and you're left on your own again, sort of thing?
Yeah, I've done this. I done some work for them last year, so I don't get work off them every single month, but once a year, I'll get a little something. So it's so it's definitely an ongoing relationship, and they're good folk there. And
so it's a reputational thing. It's like a burn with little pebbles floating and building up.
Yeah, definitely. And in the mix, if they're ever working on something that they need a composer, then if you've done a good job for them in the past, and one, you're a good composer, but 2, you're easy to work with and good to work. They like working with you. They'll ask you back, and you'll be in the mix, going forward.
We're just going to take a break from the interview, and I thought you would enjoy listening to a piece of Phil's music. Here it is.
Jai
Now, we should really mention, was this job that you got before or after you did another person that I've actually podcasted, Hummy Man? Had you done that course yet?
Yeah, so that was 2006, the Hummy Man's summer school, and I'd just graduated in the May or the June, I think it was the August, wasn't it, the Hummy Man? And yeah, that taught me so much as well. That 2 weeks of just intense learning. So that was all after the Hummy Man Film School, which again I loved, absolutely loved it.
Yeah, it was quite, for people out there who may be interested, Hummy Man has written a couple of Emmy-winning scores and has done lots and lots of work, continues to work. But it also runs courses in writing for film over in Seattle. So it's called the PNW Film Scoring. I think that's right, isn't it? Well worth looking up if you're interested in this. Anyway, back to you, Phil. So you've managed to get your first gig.
Yeah.
What happens then? Do you think you've cracked it?
Yeah, well, you definitely have a bit of a high for a while and think, well, that's it now. The offers will come flooding in. But yeah, that was a hard lesson to learn. Where you've still to be like, that wasn't a big gig, but at the time it was for me. And then I got my foot in the door with a production company in Glasgow because a short film I'd written the music for. The students were from Napier Film School. I met like a few guys there. So I've written music for the short film, and the editor of it, he was working at a production company in Glasgow called 55 Degrees, who are not around now. And I got some corporate work off them because the editor really liked the music I'd done, recommended me to this production company, and like that's the way it works. Which is a good thing. You get recommended by people.
So it's very much that's interesting, isn't it? Someone that you were actually at college with,
yeah,
then goes on, and you have these relationships, don't you, in film music, where directors and composers almost do their whole lives together.
Yeah, that's it. And it's in a way it's about creating a network of people, which I know is maybe a bit of a shallow thing to say, creating a network, but just forming up good relationships with people. And I can stem back work, like the big gigs that I go for now, I can actually stem the roots back to Napier. A lot of them, if I hadn't done that gig, I wouldn't have got that, or I wouldn't have written music that got me in the door to there, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I got my foot in the door with this production company and got a lot of corporate work through them.
What do you mean by a production company, and what do you mean by corporate work, Phil?
So this particular production company, they done a mixture of broadcast work, like television adverts, so commercial work. So I got work like that off them. And corporate work is like videos for businesses, primarily online work, online videos for businesses, videos for museums, which was kind of a random one, but the Summerlee Museum in Glasgow, I wrote music for all the videos there, which was just like a line of work that I never thought I would really, get into, but like it was just like one of them nice little random jobs. So yeah, corporate work is just music for businesses of some sort, non-commercial. So I got some steady work for them for a couple of years, but I was still a part-time composer. I was still working part-time, doing bar work, and then I became a care assistant. Because the money I was earning it was good pocket money, but it wasn't full-time wage.
Is that a big danger for young composers trying to move from doing it part-time to full-time? Because I'm assuming you have to put an awful lot of time and effort into getting the work.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, sometimes you could spend like just getting the work and trying to apply for jobs and getting the pitches, and you can spend I spend days not even writing music, but just on the internet looking at production companies, calling them up, emailing them and stuff like that, and without even writing a note. And then when the time comes to write the music, you've got to be like ready to go.
Were you just getting in touch with everyone, or were you looking specifically for companies that maybe worked with your style of writing? Or do you have to just be able to write in any style?
Yeah, like I would just go for anyone and everyone, really. There's always that thing that I remember you saying where being versatile is a good thing because it means that you could take on more work, So, it's not all about writing the epic film music. Sometimes you've got to write an indie track or a pop track for like, that TV advert. And so, yeah, I was just approaching anyone and everyone to start with. And if someone like, you always say yes to a job, don't you? And then you learn it. You learn how to do it later.
I love reggae. I love funk.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Bluffer's Guide's right beside you. So are you saying that, so as a composer, as you start to get more work, and you mentioned this at the beginning, Phil, you said you've done some theatre work, you've done TV, you've done film. Do you really need to have a finger in many pies sort of thing?
Yeah, I think it's, yeah, I'd say so. But, if you don't feel comfortable writing in a certain style, then I wouldn't go and pursue a project that is looking, if you're not into writing jazz music, I wouldn't maybe go and pursue if there's a film looking for a jazz composer. I probably wouldn't go for it. But yeah, just, I suppose I know the term jack of all trades isn't really that flattering, but it's good to again, just be diverse, versatile, and just try to cover as many styles as you can within reason, really. But I think as the years have gone on, I've definitely noticed that there's certain projects that I get offered more than others. I've done a lot of low budget drama, thriller, feature films, as well as the kids television music and kids theatre. So I've definitely got two sort of genres that I seem to be busier in.
I wanted to talk to you about that because you've done work for a whole range of big names, Discovery Channel, ITV, but you've also done work for the BBC, kids or children's, I don't know if it's called the Children's Unit anymore. Sounds very 1950s Stalinist, the Children's Unit. You have done that. Could you tell us about that? Because it's quite exciting and a huge, dare I say, feather in your cap.
Yeah, that was the CBBC. That first show with the CBBC was I suppose was my break, really, and that's when I went from being a part-time composer to a full-time composer. So it was 2014 when I got this job, but there's just going back, the guy who put me in touch with the CBBC people, I emailed him in 2009. He was a music publisher based at Universal Music Publishing. And somehow or other through days of networking and emailing, I got put in touch with this guy called Simon Mortimer. He doesn't work at Universal now. But I emailed him and he seemed to like the music that I'd sent. And he put me up for a couple of documentaries that didn't work out. So nothing came of it. We kept in touch over the years. And then 5 years later, 2014, I get an email out of the blue from Simon just to say CBBC are making a drama up in Scotland and they're looking for a Scottish-based composer, and I've put your name forward for it. And it's an email you get where the hairs on the back of your neck stand up wow, this is more dead exciting. So expect a call from someone getting the job. It's long story short, I got the job.
That's a big deal. How did you feel about that? There must have been a slight apprehension as well as excitement.
It was really just all excitement. It was just to get it because I knew it'd be a big deal. Because also at that same time, I'd pitched for a CBeebies project, which CBeebies is a slightly younger age group. CBeebies is 2 to 3 to 6, or CBBC is 6 to 12. But anyway, I just applied for a CBeebies kids show and got rejected. And I was really gutted because I'd spent 2 weeks pitching, writing these demos, recording a singer. And it's 2 weeks unpaid work. And I sent the demos off and didn't hear anything back for months. Then got a knockback just as I was applying for this CBBC show. So the CBBC show was called Eve, and it was a sci-fi drama. And I just knew it was up my street because I'm into sci-fi and fantasy and that kind of stuff. Got put in touch with the producers of the show who liked the music that I'd sent them. They'd like previous music that I'd done. they sent me a script and asked if I could write a couple of demos, so I'd done that. And then I got invited for an interview at the set, which was, they were shooting out at Bathgate.
Yeah, that's where they do all the stuff, the pyramids, yeah.
Yeah.
That's where they did Train Spotting too as well.
Oh, right. That period, I was just so excited by it all, going from getting the email to, I remember driving to the place in Bathgate going, I'm interviewing for a CBBC show, this could be it. And I was on a high for about 2 weeks, really, from the email to the interview. But then after the interview, which went really good, and then there was the radio silence, and it was just going from high to like, oh my God, like, it was awful. The waiting round is one of the worst. Outside of being unemployed, waiting to hear about a job is the worst. Waiting on someone's making a decision.
And then was it an email or a letter?
It was a phone call, so it was like, it'd been about 3 or 4 weeks since the interview, and I'd been driving myself like insane. And I actually like emailed the producer, Peter Gallagher, who, he won't mind me saying this because we're friends now, but I just sort of lied and said, kind of gave him an ultimatum and said, hi Peter, I've been offered another job. Any chance you could let me know about Eve like within the next week or so? Risky, very risky. And then 45 minutes later, my mobile phone rang, and it was Peter saying, yeah, I'd like to offer you the job, you got it. And I screamed. Scream like a football goal, like someone scores a goal, like a football hooligan scream,
So you played it cool then, Phil, yeah?
I put the phone on mute, screamed then. Oh, that's great news. Thanks, Peter.
So what exactly had you won the right to do? How much music, how many shows?
Yeah, so it was series 1 of Eve was 13 episodes, and each episode was half an hour long. So that's 6.5 hours of content. So it's big. It's like a big gig.
And how much music did you have to write for that?
So each episode was 30 minutes long. There was easily 20 to 25 minutes of music per episode. So you're writing hours of music, like 20 minutes, at least 20 minutes of music at a time.
So it's almost wall-to-wall music.
Yeah, definitely. And that's not including like, rewrites and stuff. You write hours of music, and the gig, after getting the gig and, that initial high, when I started on it, it was really difficult. I found it really, really difficult. And I felt the pressure. Like, that I didn't think I'd associate with writing music for kids' TV. I thought it'd be quite relaxed and they'd be happy with, wherever it is. But they were really they really pushed me, and they were very particular about things, and some stuff I'd done they did not like, and some stuff I did that they really liked.
So perhaps it would be good for people to understand, if you can almost paraphrase, when you say they were quite particular, they weren't talking in the language of music, were they?
No, well, I just remember they'd sent me through episode 1, and I'd written about half of the score for them to review. Rather than sending them 1 or 2 cues at a time, I thought, well, let's just watch a block if you can get into it a bit more then. So I went through to Glasgow to the place where they were mixing it all, sat down, watched episode 1, the half of it, and they didn't really like the music as much as what I thought.
Now, how did you feel at that point?
I felt a bit scared, because I remember driving home going, wow, I was hoping for for a bit of excitement, but they didn't like it. It was too orchestral. They thought the music was too orchestral and a bit too old-fashioned.
What was the brief like? Did they give you a good enough brief? Because I'm assuming that this is for TV. You didn't.
Yeah.
Did you have a spotting session for this?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, so we had a spotting session where we went through the episode and figured out where every cue would start and finish, and discussed each cue, what the mood each cue should be or could be.
Did they discuss instrumentation?
Not really, no. I mean, I'd written demos already, which they liked the sound of. And actually, I'd blame some of it on me because the demos that I'd written were a bit more electronically leaning. And for some reason, I'd written the first score that was very orchestral. So I think maybe I was probably to blame. So I went back and added in some more contemporary electronics in with the orchestra, which is kind of the norm now, really, for film scores. Well, not like I invented it, or I put more electronics in, not like I'm not a pioneer or anything. Yeah, so that's all I did. I a little bit less of the orchestra, a bit more of the electronic, edgy sound, and then they started really liking it.
You came away, were you worried you might lose this job?
Yeah, that was definitely a fear that creeped in my brain. I was like, oh, what if they're like regretting hiring me and stuff like that? But that wasn't, it wasn't to be the case. I just went back, and I think it's just part of the job, really. It's some stuff you do that they're not going to like. But anyway, I got the revised score to them very quickly.
How quickly?
About 4 days. So that's half an episode. So it was about 12 minutes of music.
So how many minutes of music are you writing a day back then, Phil?
Anything from 3 minutes of music up to about 5 to 6. But 3 to 5 to 6 minutes of music. That's when I'm in the full swing, like full. Day one of anything is, you're lucky if you write 30 seconds. But once you get into it, you write a lot of music.
Well, that's quite prolific, because most of the guys say about 3 minutes, and you're writing up to double that.
Yeah, I just found that, like, as the time wears on, you work through the episodes, the schedule naturally gets tighter and tighter. And then I remember, like, I had to write 10 minutes of music one day. And I don't know what happened. They're just a blur. You just got to get it done. And if you write 10 minutes of music a day, it's not going to be, Oscar-winning material, probably not, but, it's just...
Now, this brings me on to a point that I think a lot of people who may be listening to this, who may be interested in a career in this field, they see the glamour of it all. And I remember, I can't remember who the composer was.
Yeah.
He was in LA, and he said he was driving down the road, and he saw this massive billboard for a film that was coming out and that he was writing the music for, and which he hadn't even written the music for, and he absolutely crapping himself. But the reality is, once it all kicks off, right, it's a lot of solitude, isn't it? It's just you.
Yeah, definitely. And like yourself, Jen, it's just you're in a little bubble, and if you're on a tight schedule, and you've just got to get your head down and write, and you can't remember half of the stuff you did or why you did it. Like, why did I go to that chord there? Like, what was the thing? And you just got to go with your instincts, and but it can be quite like a magical place to be. I think it's just the music's kind of,
you're connecting that pipe of inspiration, but on a more practical level, and away from all the boyhood fantasies of it all, or girlhood fantasies. That must have quite an impact on your family life and the children and all of that. And you obviously need silence, or at least not a lot of folks shouting all the time. How does that work out practically?
Well, in season 1 of Eve, it was great timing, because I was a month into scoring it. I'd maybe finished episode 2, and our first baby was born. And I was like, oh man, like, brand new baby and we were in the flat at the time. We weren't here. We were just down the road in the two bed flat. So we had one bedroom for sleeping. The second bedroom was my studio, and then a newborn baby was in there as well. So yeah, just like Lorna, my wife, she'd take the kid over to see her mum and give me a bit of quiet time, and I just work until I fell asleep, really. And it's just I remember it's just an absolute blur. But I'd get up, I'm in the studio for 7, I'd stop for a bit of lunch, bit of dinner, and then work till 11 midnight and sleep, and just keep doing that. And yeah, it's having a very understanding wife who knows the score. And
quite literally, yeah. So I mean, that sort of really puts it into contextualizes it. It's not just a cakewalk, is it? It's a really high pressured, high demanding. Now, with the advent of non-linear editing and all that, do you find that they expect even more of you because they know you can cut stuff up and rejig stuff about?
Yeah. I think that the directors and the producers just, they kind of just want to make the show as good as they can. And I think sometimes when they are watching an episode in the edit suite without music, they may be sort of starting to see flaws that they otherwise didn't see, and they want the music to maybe cover that up and make the show as good as possible. And music can do that. Like you said, in music for screen. It can make something good really great, or something that's okay. It can make it pretty damn good. Yeah, sometimes it is just like, oh yeah, just go away, just go make it better, just go and do it.
So that music that you're creating is called, for the most part, underscored. Were you surprised at the amount of underscore you needed to write for that first BBC series?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the music, it is kind of like a drug. It's like the more you start using it, the more the episode needs it. And then, all of a sudden, 20 seconds of no music can feel like a really long time. And then when a bit of music comes in, it makes the scenes appear shorter and quicker. Yeah, so I was quite surprised. But it was kind of a good thing in a way, because as the season went on and I became more confident and the music was finding its voice, the producers and directors started liking the music more and more and wanted just more of it because they liked it that much, which is a nice thing. And plus,
absolutely.
And plus, the more music you write in an episode, the more royalties you get. So
we're going to come on to that for people, not specifics, but generals around it. What was the actual series called?
So the first series that I've been talking about is called Eve.
And it was a science fiction. Now, did you feel at the end of that is when that was your real education?
Yeah, definitely. You're getting feedback of people who don't necessarily know that much about technical music terms and things like that, but they are discussing the music with you in the context of the television show and how they want the music to work within the scene and within the drama. And I learned so much. I learned that I had a big weakness at that point about trying to write comedy music. I couldn't do it. I was good at the drama stuff and the sci-fi stuff and things like that, but trying to make a scene funny with music.
Marimba patch out, no?
I know. Just like, how music can actually ruin a scene. If you try and overcook the comedy music or try and make it too funny, it's like all of a sudden the scene's gone from being mildly amusing to really annoying.
Now we're being, perhaps, or I being a little presumptuous here, because a lot of people listening to this may be very interested in it, but they may not actually know exactly how you create music. So how is it? Do you do this with real instruments, Phil, or is it a mixture? How does it work?
For the most part, I'm here in the studio and I'm just sat in front of the computer, PC, desktop PC, and I use my DAW, digital audio workstation, is Cubase, which I've been using since Napier. That was what we used, and I've just stuck with it. Because they all do one and the same thing, really. And for the most part, I've got my acoustic guitars and my electric guitar and a ukulele, which I use sometimes. But for the most part, for these Kids TV series, at least, I'm using sample libraries.
Okay, I hope you're enjoying the interview, and I hope you don't mind taking another break, but I thought it would be a good time to listen to some more of Phil's original music. Enjoy. What's a sample library then?
Well, it's basically, you have an orchestra at your fingertips. So these companies go and record, in case of an orchestra, they'll go and record live players playing individual notes on a string or a horn, every single instrument in the orchestra. They'll record individual notes. Then that means that you can then load up a patch in Cubase, and then you've got a violin, the first violins at your fingertips. Not pre-played phrases where it's just like one finger and it's like you do have to create the music.
So how hard is that with violins have many different techniques?
Yeah.
How hard is it to program? I take it you have to program all these things in. How difficult is that? And how time consuming is it?
It can be time consuming. If you want the strings and any of the instruments to sound natural, not just like, oh, let's just do staccato for like 2 minutes. Like, you want it to like ebb and flow and breathe and be like natural, like a conversation would be. And a lot of it is time consuming because, you want to have like different articulations for different phrases of the melody or whatever. But it becomes quicker just the more you use it, because it's like, okay, well, I know it's, you can change the articulation by either by a key switch, like on the lower end of your keyboard here. So you got legato, staccato, marcato, and everything harmonics and all this kind of stuff. It just becomes easier. You just become easier and quicker the more you do it. And you learn how to use your software and your instruments.
So these sample libraries, they can be quite expensive, can't they?
Yeah.
Now, when you actually give the cues in to the production company or whoever, do you have to fill in saying which sample libraries you used?
I haven't done that, no. I don't know if you have to. Normally, again, this is just with the BBC stuff, they do have to fill in a cue sheet, which lists every single individual cue that you've written, and then they go and submit that to a company. I think it's called Silver Mouse, and then they sort of start calculating your royalties with PRS.
PRS is the Performing Rights Society.
Yeah.
That's an organisation that collects money on behalf of composers. So maybe it would be a good idea to tell people exactly how the money works on a general basis for composers. How would that work then, Phil? Yeah,
so again, with the CBBC, what happens is, or any channel, this is just UK broadcasting, but any channel in the UK has a per minute of music value. So, say BBC One, for example, prime time BBC One, a composer will get about £90 per minute of music played. So if you've done, again, this is BBC One is like one of the best channel, or one of the best, because it's you get a lot of money for it. So if you have 40 minutes of score on a BBC One primetime drama, times that by £90, and then that's how much money you're going to get for episode 1 of a drama.
And that's PRS.
Yes.
Performing Rights Society. But will you also be paid a fee for writing the music?
Yeah. So again, with Eve, when I first got the job, the producer said, "You got the job. What fee were you looking for?" And I was none the wise. I honestly really, I thought, well, I'll just charge them a fee per episode, times that by 13, then that'll give them a figure, which
they got a good deal.
Well, I said a fee, and then I think they were expecting a lot more because they upped it. So
that was good of them.
Yeah. And again, I always worry about, I know it's not a lot of composers and people talk about money because it's private and all this kind of stuff, and plus it's other people's money who paid you and stuff. But yeah, so you get a fee for the actual composing, and you get 50% up front for when you start, and then 50% on completion, and then on top of that you get your royalties. So
get mechanical royalties, Phil.
Yes, you do, yeah.
So you get PRS, which is the Performing Rights Society, which has reciprocal deals with performing rights societies all around the world. So if a production is played anywhere, you'll get paid. If it's played in Outer Mongolia.
I think so. I think it depends on the channel, because even in the UK, some channels, you're paid regardless. If it's on a BBC One, BBC Two, ITV channel, if it's on, you're going to get paid. But some of the smaller channels, like, I don't know.
Cable.
It's the PRS, they sample them. They sample the channels. So it's luck of the draw if you get royalty for them or not.
So does that mean that cable, you would get a lot less in terms of per minute than, say, a terrestrial, well, so-called terrestrial?
Yeah, no, that's right, yeah. So it's like, they call it census. So if it's on ITV or, one of the terrestrial channels, or you're going to get your royalties for it. And then for overseas, I think it may depend on the channels, what the channels are like overseas as well. I think every Performing Rights Society works slightly differently, but for Eve, over the years, I've got royalties from Australia, Norway, Germany, Sweden, and a few other places.
Do you have to sign a contract when you're going into something like this, Phil?
Yeah. So again, with Eve, the contract, I had to assign over the publishing to the production company, because it was an independent production company who were co-producing it with the BBC, and the independent production company wanted the publishing royalties because that would be a way for them to claw back some money. So the publishing, when someone says like the publishing, basically £1 of a royalty is split into two ways, to the writer and the publisher. So £1 of a royalty, 50p goes to the writer, 50p goes to the publisher. Did you
do a different deal because you got signed up for the second series, didn't you?
Yeah, and I just kept it. I mean, I just felt like I was in no position there to start negotiating. I was just kind of grateful for the second series, and we done 3 in the end. So I was just grateful for the work. But I think if you've got some clout, then you can negotiate to even keep a percentage of the publishing royalties, just so, instead of getting half, you might get your writer's royalties, which are half, and then you can negotiate 25% of the publishing. It's always up for grabs. I just think it depends on, the confidence you have and the reputation you have, maybe.
So synchronization websites. This is huge on the internet just now, where you can put music up and potentially your music's going to get shown to production companies around the world. Do you actually take part in that? And if you do, would you say to young composers to do the same?
Yeah, I started doing that when a few years graduated, and then music libraries becoming more popular, towards the end of the noughties, or at least I became more aware of them then. So I just started uploading, unused music or music that pitched for stuff that was just sat there on the hard drive. I just started uploading it, and it made some money. You get again, just a bit of extra pocket money for the most part. Some composers make a living out of it, but it's definitely good because sometimes, you could put up a piece of music, a director might listen to it and actually get in touch with you about it and go, I like that piece of music. And it happened to me once where I'd written a bit of music, and a German filmmaker made a time-lapse video of Edinburgh, and he used a track I wrote, and I just, the way I found it is I Googled myself.
An ego search.
I know, it's all coming out now. So and I came across this video, and I was like, wow, that video is really cool. This beautiful time-lapse video of Edinburgh city centre at night time. So I actually got in touch with the director and said, wow, thanks for using my music, and great video, and give me a shout if, you ever working on anything else. And it so happened that he was making a 20-minute time-lapse video called The Tropic of Capricorn, which he was shooting around the world. And he was a guy with a self-funded trip, and, paid me to write the music for it. And I think the music libraries are definitely worth doing, and some of them are harder to get on than others.
That was a great thing you just told us there, Phil. You didn't go mental at the guy for using your music, and through that attitude you actually got some more work out of it.
Yeah, that's it. Just again, it's just being on top of the ball, just doing, Googling myself, or trying to keep tabs on if you've sold music and stuff. It's just, I just call it detective work, networking and stuff like that. But yeah, just being proactive, again, just trying to see what works out.
Are you a member of any of these websites which hunt down through digital signatures your music?
I'm not, I maybe should do, just maybe it's just sheer laziness. I've not bothered to do it, but I'm aware of them, but I've never really looked into how they work. But yeah, maybe I should do it.
I just want to wrap up and quickly move on. You did 2 more Eves. Did you find as it went on, it became easier?
Yeah, it did. Definitely did. My relationship with the producer Peter, really good. There's that trust there that he's. I don't feel scared to like write something that's not good. I'm not scared to make a mistake or send him a piece of music that he doesn't like. And you develop a shorthand of like, well, I don't like that. Try something else. But it just got easier, and I think the music got better and better as well as the series went on.
Now, once you were on the title credits of a BBC production, did you find you were getting more inquiries?
I didn't actually know. I had a bit of a dry patch, really, because, again, I was a bit smug about it all, maybe, and a bit naive, where we just finished season 3, and we knew that was the last one. But in my head, I was like, well, 3 seasons of a CBBC show, the phone will be off the hook, and I'll be sound. And that didn't happen. I took about a month off, which was fine, I was just dead, just really quiet, nothing, which was quite scary. And then I just learned that you still have to be proactive. You still have to, and it makes it easier for me to like get my foot in the door for other CBBC projects, and because I know a few folk now, and I know which people to get in touch with. If I hear about a kids show that's on BBC, I know who to maybe get in touch with to get in the mix, for the pitching process or something. But I'm still like, I'm definitely still proactive. But having said that, so the last CBBC thing I scored was The Demon Headmaster, which was like the reboot of the 90s show. And I got that job. It was kind of a mixture of things, but the producer of The Demon Headmaster was also the producer of Eve, Peter Gallagher. And he got in touch with me one day, just saying, "Hey, Phil, producing The Demon Headmaster, do you want to do it?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah."
That's fantastic.
No pitching required.
So is it the case that composers can get typecast like actors can?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Because of the areas they work in, those people that are also in that production then themselves get typecast, so...
Yeah, I agree, yeah. And I think, Peter's been offered the job probably because of his work on Eve, and he's like, well, if that got the execs like that show that I produced, then they must have liked the music. So yeah, you get like brought back on board for stuff and potentially typecast. And I suppose the hope is, everyone's hope, or I say a composer's hope, is that maybe the producer or one of the producers will go off sideways and get a job in a different genre and then bring you on board, and then that's when you start kind of branching out. But
here we are, 2020.
Yeah.
Apparently animation's the next black. There's going to be a lot of that kicking about. Can you honestly say that your love for what you do is as strong as it was before you started this?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Every day, just like listening to film music and just, yeah. I always I always imagine being, in the cinema, having finished scoring an epic sci-fi fantasy trilogy and being the guy and it's like, watching it with an audience, and because I always wanted to be the guy who done the music for that stuff, and still do. So still obsessed.
That's fantastic. Is there anything on the horizon that you can actually tell us about?
There's the Demon Headmaster Series 2's been greenlit. We're not sure about if it's got pushed back, and it may be next year that happens. So there's that, and I've just pitched for another CBBC show, but I'll not say it just yet, just in case you don't get it and it makes you look a bit silly. So yeah, another CBBC show pitch for, another one.
Any feature films on the horizon at all, Phil?
There's a couple in development, but nothing like.
What's your feeling towards the feature film?
Yeah, I love it. The last one I'd done was a feature film called Matriarch, which was shot and made up here in Scotland. Low budget, horror thriller. I loved it. I'd scored it over about 2 months. Just loved it. Dark, moody horror music. I love doing all that kind of stuff. In
terms of the actual music itself, have we got to the actual historical cultural point where everything's a cliche?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
What I mean by that for listeners is is usually, I don't know why, but it's always the woman decides to walk on her own in the middle of the night through the woods. And of course, there's some absolute madman with an axe waiting. And when he eventually does, when she looks round to see her nemesis come in and put the axe through her head, there's a massive thing that's generally called a stinger.
Yeah,
which invariably has an anvil in it. So, is it all a bit like a set play? You know, almost like a rugby game now, where this does that and that does that.
Yeah, like definitely. Like if you sit and watch a horror film, you can definitely tell when the jump scare is going to be, because there's always like a bit of suspenseful underscore followed by a few seconds of silence. Like, it's the cat. Followed by, that.
The Jurassic Park one's a classic. When I can't remember the guy's name, but the programmer, and she goes, "Oh, Mr. Anderson," and she grabs his arm, and it comes away. That's a classic stinger.
Yeah, well, I always think, like, especially with horror music, and again with Matriarch, I'm not gonna, I know I've plugged all my work and stuff like that, but I always find, like, with horror scores, like, the absence of music is just so much more powerful. So, like, in the Matriarch film, the start of the film, like, even the first 30 minutes, there's not that much underscore, only because I knew that as the score goes on, there's more and more score, the film becomes more and more dramatic, and this young couple crash in the Scottish countryside and get given refuge at a farmhouse.
It doesn't sound good.
I know, yeah, it's not looking good.
It's not looking good. Long-term survivability is not looking good.
The lady, she's pregnant, and
even worse. You have to run at some point.
She does. But,
yeah, of course she does, yeah.
And they have a sit-down meal with this family who are really a bit weird. There's the husband and wife and the two sons, and it's all a bit weird. And they sit down and have a meal with them, and there was no music in it, and it was great because it's just like, it makes it so much more awkward. Like when there's like a silence between like any conversation, and you can hear the chair creaking. It's just like, so yeah, the absence of music.
You mean like now? Yeah, just like that. That's dead space, folks. That's what, I think, you see that, just to hark back to that Jurassic Park movie, I think I don't know if I said this when you were at Napier, but one of the great scenes, I think, in terms of music scoring, you can tell, folks, we're a pair of anoraks. One of the great scenes is when the car is coming down the tree, and John Williams, he just holds off and holds off and holds off some more until eventually that car, he does it on, I think, the third slip, and then he brings in with sort of quite avant-garde, forceful music, and it ratchets up the suspense to the highest level. Yeah, I know, the time, that's it. It's just like the spot, it's the spotting of the music, isn't it? Knowing where to bring it in, so important. Like, it's not just the content, it's where you bring it in. I can see that horror films must be such a laugh, in a sense, to do, especially since, as the composer, you're seeing the entire film and you know how it's actually going to end, whereas the audience don't.
That's it. Yeah, you can have like a lot of fun with it as well. So I really love scoring there. Matriarch is really, really great. And the director of that he's got Scott Vickers. He's got a couple of feature films in development. So, but have to see what happens with.
Absolutely, we'll put links to that on the episode. So you see, when you get a film, Phil, how does it look, and does it have any numbers, any things like that on it?
Yeah, so Matriarch. Again, I got that through Getting Eve, the CBBC show. So I got the film. To start with, they sent me the first 5 minutes because the director wanted me to do a little demo. And it was kind of rough looking. It's not like graded, and it's like slightly lower resolution to what it will be. Not crisp high def or 4K. And it's got you got a time code at the top.
So what's a time code?
That just gives you the indication of like the minutes, seconds, and frames that the film is running. So you can
make things happen at a very specific time.
Yeah. So I anytime I send a cue, I will send the time code to the director or producer saying, okay, Q1 starts at 0-0, 5 minutes, 4 seconds, 12 frames. So it's really specific.
What do you think the future holds for film scoring and scoring for in general, and for composers like yourself? Where do you see the opportunities?
I really don't know. I wonder if, I think for a while I felt that like the only way into like scoring big feature films, not that I know I'm not scoring big feature films, but I thought like maybe the only way in to like make a living out of it was to go through the school of Hans Zimmer. And before I got Eve, and which was, you know, a sort of a break and, you know, made me become a full-time composer, I went to California on a road trip with the wife and went to, it's not Remote Control Productions, is it now? Hans Zimmer's production company, to hand him, you know, oh, Mr. Zimmer.
You should watch yourself. You would have got grabbed and start having to ghostwrite.
I know. Well, yeah, but for a while I thought like that was just the only way in, but I think more and more folk are doing it now. You can really like do it from the comfort of your own home, but for the most part, and even like Game of Thrones composer Ramin Djawadi, big epic music and things, but I think even he, for the most part, worked on a setup like a computer, using sample libraries and just hiring the odd solo musician to play over the top of it. And I think it's just due to like scheduling and stuff like that. And yeah, I you know, honestly, I've got a bit of a rubbish. I haven't really got a really good answer for that. Like, because I'm just sort of so like, I get tunnel vision just thinking about my own career, and I really don't know.
It's all about you, isn't it, Phil?
So selfish it is. I think like there's definitely more things getting made now with Netflix and Amazon all having their own original content, but there's more people, there's more composers now. So I think there's always that ratio is always kind of balanced, because maybe like 20 years ago there wasn't as many things getting made, but there weren't as many composers doing it. And yeah, like you say, animation now, like that's one sector that's thriving at the moment. So, but it's all these sectors, animation, kids TV, at least for composers, they're so competitive. And you have agents who like specialize in signing composers who just work in kids TV and animation.
Have you ever wanted an agent, Phil?
I have, yeah. I've met a couple, but I'm just I'm not big enough for the books yet. The few agents that I've got in touch with, like, you know, one of them said I wasn't quite on the platform yet, and they've got big guys in the books, like the guy who do like the BBC One dramas, like Downton Abbey, and I actually I interviewed for one recently, a BBC One drama. They're called The Nest. It was on BBC One. Martin Compson, 5-part BBC One drama. It's like the type of gig that if you're a composer on TV, you want to get it, because, you know, on top of the fee, the healthy royalties afterwards. But again, it was the producer of the show worked on Eve, so that I got an interview. She was a line producer, she wasn't the main producer on Eve. She was a line producer, like slightly below. But then she got the job as the main producer on the BBC One drama. So that was my foot in the door there. So it was exciting, and I pitched a couple of tracks, done an interview, but the exec producer wanted a named composer who
they've got a good name. So do you know who got that gig?
Yeah, a guy called Paul Leonard Morgan.
Never heard of him.
He used to be based in Glasgow, but he's in Los Angeles now. He wrote the music for Dread, Limitless, and now he's doing the new film, this Dynasty series over in America. He's California based now. Tales of the Loop. Yeah, if you look at, you'll see his credits. He's got a bigger reputation than me, that's for sure.
Well, I think people listening to this around the world will have got an awful lot out of it, because they'll be able to done a lot of high-end work, Phil, but you're still a very approachable person who, it's not like in some stratosphere that nobody can ever even conceive of themselves being in. And I think that's important, especially when you're starting out. You know, everybody wants to be the big whatever, but the reality is very few just land there. As I hate saying it, there's a journey to be taken. I know. I love what I do right now. Like, I look like it's such a privilege to make a living out of it and write music. Like, you know, even just doing the Demon Headmaster last year, just like sat writing music, and, you know, the episode there, and then even going on set and just seeing how, just, you know, on a kids' TV show, just how many hundreds of people are busy working. And it's just like, it's a privilege that it gets all filtered up to me. All that hard work is just on the screen there, and like it's really humbling, and it's such a cool thing to do, isn't it? You know. Well, the privilege has been mine, all mine. Thanks so much for spending this time with us. I'm sure lots of people have both enjoyed it and got a lot out of this, Phil. You've always been fantastic in giving your time over for any madcap idea or thing that I'm doing. So it's fantastic to see you again. Good luck with everything that you're doing, and I look forward to listening to more of your music on the next CBBC series that I watch.
Thanks, Jed. That was great to talk to you again, man.
Okay, this was one of the longest podcasts for some time. I've generally tried to keep them under 45 minutes. If you've lasted to the end, well done. I hope you enjoyed it and that you found Phil an engaging person. It really is. I don't know why the stream, the podcast audio was so difficult this time, but I think it was legible enough to hear all his words of wisdom about how he went about creating the career that he has. I would like you to hear some more, so we're going to play some of Phil's music on the way out. My name is Ged Brockie. It's been a pleasure having you here. There's a lot more podcasts coming up because I've got the bug again, and I've got a whole bunch of really interesting guests coming up real soon, so please subscribe, and it'd be great to have your company on the next one. So bye for now.
Jai